I was working on a summer hoodie. I think I made this hoodie in lace Paisley hoodie in 2017. So before we start making the hoodie, we need to make a pattern. Before you make the pattern, you have to find like a hoodie that fits you really good, that you like the fit. So you can basically buy something that fits you good, and then we're gonna cut it up to make a pattern from it, since you know it fits perfect. If you don't have anything in your closet, you can go to Goodwill. Goodwill has a bunch of hoodies you can buy for like $2, and then you can just use that to make a pattern. So the first thing we're going to do is cut each part of the hoodie. So I made patterns before. I made a miniature model to show. So we'll cut about 5 pieces. So we'll need a front piece. The shape will look something like that. And then you have the back piece, and it'll look like that. And normally the back piece is kind of like the curve isn't as deep when you compare it to the front. The front is normally deeper, so that's how you can tell from the back and the front pattern. And then we have a sleeve, and then you have the hood, and then you have the front pocket. Here's your front piece, and then the pocket goes like that. So we can just start with like the arm. When you cut, you want to make sure you cut on the seam. You see the top stitching here? So you want to cut here in the middle and go all the way around the armhole. You do that everywhere on the hoodie. So when you cut the hood out, you like around the collar part, you go all the way around, and the same place right here. We cut like right there. It looks something like that when you start cutting on the seam, in the middle of the seam. Just keep cutting all the way around. So it should look something like this when you finish that. So, but the armhole has a seam too, underneath like the armpit. It goes all the way down. So we'll need to cut that open. On the miniature mock-up, it's like, what we have is like, it's like sewed together right now. So now we have to cut underneath the armpit on the seam, so we can just open it up, and we'll have this kind of shape. So same thing, every time we cut, we're gonna cut in the middle of the seam. We'll keep cutting in the middle of the seam. And at the same time, we'll cut the cuff off. So we'll just cut in the seam. So now the armhole is open. So it looks like that. So the shape's like that, basically. So we have the cuff cut out. So that's the shape of the cuff. So I just finished cutting both sleeves out. So it looks like this. Both sleeves are gone. So now the next thing we're gonna do is cut the hood out. So same thing, we're gonna cut around the neck, the collar area, in the center of the seam, and just go all the way around. So now we got the hood cut out. So the shape is like something like that. On my miniature version, it's like something like that. So now you have the front and back piece left. Next thing I'm going to do is cut the waistband out. So same thing, cut on the seam. So we got the waistband cut out. The last thing that's left is the front and back. So basically we'll just cut on the shoulder. We'll cut on the shoulder and then we'll cut on the side seam. So it'll basically look like this when we're done. The front and then the back. So we got the front piece cut, the back piece. So now we have everything cut out. We need to make a pattern. I have construction paper, or it's like painter's paper. I get it from Home Depot. If you get it at the normal fabric store, it costs like, I don't know, like $50 a roll and only lasts. You probably finish it with like, if you make like 3 jackets kind of thing. But if you get this big roll from Home Depot, it'll last like forever. And it only costs like, I don't know, $15, something like that. And now we're gonna make a pattern. So basically, we'll start with the front piece. So basically we'll fold it in half. We'll also fold the paper in half to fit the front piece. So we're going to place the center fold on the paper fold and just match it up. We'll just trace around the whole thing. Make sure you paper to go all the way around, but you need to make sure we leave room for seam allowance. I'll explain that later. But just know you gotta make at least that much room, maybe like ½ an inch or off the paper. If you have weights, put some like weights to hold the fabric in place. So now we're gonna pretty much trace all the way around the front piece. So here, all the way around. I'll do dash marks all the way around. So it'll look like something like that. So when you're done, it'll look something like that. Now the next thing we'll do is we'll connect the dots. So it's basically like that right now. And then we're gonna cut it out and then we open it up and then we'll have the front piece. So it's like perfect. That's how we did the fold. So it'll be pretty much symmetrical on both sides. The next thing we're going to do is add seam allowance. Let's say we're going to use a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, which is like there. So basically when you start sewing, you place the needle on this line. Line where the needle is to the edge is a 1/4 of an inch. So that's how we know where to place the needle when we start sewing. And like sometimes I'll like match it with, look at the foot. So from this distance, from the foot to the needle, that's a 1/4. And just watch the edge of this foot to know it's a 1/4 of an inch from the needle basically. Here where the needle goes down on this line, and then we're gonna add the seam allowance here. So it's like 1/4. So we'll just add a 1/4 all the way around. If you have this kind of ruler, you can just measure from 1/4 from here to the edge, and it just makes things quicker when you're adding seam allowance. Make something like this. It looks like this right now. And then we open it up. So now we got the front piece done. Now we can start working on the back piece. So we'll cut this front piece out, but we won't like cut it fully out. We just want to save it for later, basically. We'll just like keep it intact, and we won't cut it out yet. Same thing with the back piece. We'll fold it in half, and we'll do the same thing with the paper. We'll fold it in half, and then we'll place the folds, the center fold of the fabric to the center fold of the paper. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll go all the way around and do the dash marks. Add a 1/4 seam allowance. Cut the back piece out and then save it for later. You can kind of label each piece. So this is like the back. And then we can label this front piece. So the reason why I didn't cut everything out yet is because we got to make sure everything fits together. So like, for example, this is the back piece, this is the front piece. So when we're sewing the shoulders together, you have to make sure it's the same measurement. So when we sew from here to here across, we have to make sure it's the same. So this front piece is around 2 inches, the shoulder. So the back piece is 2 inches as well. If you look at this we just made, we'll see if it matches the shoulder seam. So the shoulder of the front piece is from here to here is like 9 inches, not counting the seam allowance. So we'll check the back if the seam allowance is matched. So it fits. Both shoulder length is about 9 inches. So basically you want to go around each piece, the side seams where we sew the sides. Make sure from this point and this point is the same. You can tell like when we just put it over each other, it just matches. So let's say you make your pattern and it doesn't match up. Your shoulder doesn't match up, like it's longer. You're putting it together and then you notice like it's shorter. So you have to add length to here. You wouldn't touch the neckline, you would add continuing on the shoulder, on the back, since the back is shorter. So if there's like a scenario with the side seam, like it's shorter, if you can see, you wouldn't make adjustments for the side seam on the armhole area. You try to avoid adding or subtracting length from the armhole. You would do it towards the bottom hem. So then we'll add length to the front. So we'll add from here to here. So we'll just like cut out some scraps and just tape it on to adjust for the length. We're about short, like 1/4 inch, so we'll add a 1/4. So when you extend the length of the shoulder seam, now you have to kind of blend the armhole, just sketch and blend the armhole to fit the curve. So the side seam, we're about short 1/2 inch, so we're gonna add 1/2 inch towards the bottom hem, not the armhole. or the shoulder lengths match. Side seam match up now. So once we know for the front and back pieces, we measure and make sure the shoulder and the side seams are matching up, then we can cut. So now we're gonna cut our front and back pieces. I normally pin the pattern so it doesn't move around. So now we're gonna make a pattern for the sleeve. This is the front armhole. So you gotta measure the length here on the front. We're gonna measure the length of the armhole on the back. The front curve is around 12 inches. And the back curve is 12 inches too. The curve of the armhole to be 24 inches. So now we're gonna work on the sleeve. So we're gonna match the folds from the fabric and then we'll match it to the paper fold. So we'll do the same thing. We'll like trace around with dash marks. So now we're gonna connect the dots. So like I said, we measured the armhole to be 12 inches on the front, and then the length in the back is 12 inches, so it's a total of 24. So we should have 12 inches from here to here. So we're short, it's 11 and a half. So what we're gonna do, since we're short, we're gonna add length here. So we'll add half an inch out, and then we'll blend in from this point to here, 0. So we added to here half an inch. So now we have to connect and draw the line all the way 0. Now we gotta do the hood. So here's the hood. The hood pattern looks something like that. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna trace and do dash lines all the way around. So we'll do the same thing next. We'll connect the dots. So we need our front and back pieces again. So now we have to figure out on the front from this point all the way to the other side. The length of the neck is there, and then on the back. So from there and then all the way there. The front curve of the neck is, the length is 15.5 inches. On the back, 9.5 inches. Then you combine the lengths of the front and the back, it's about 25 inches. So now we know that, now we can make sure the length, the hood on the neckline is half of 25, so, or 12.5. So we're short half an inch. We have 12 inches, so we have to add 12.5. So when we're gonna add length, we don't add length on the back of the hood, not here. We would add on the front. So we'll add half an inch this way, and then kind of blend it, taper in the line going here to 0. So it should look something like that. And then you tapered the line, went up, and then tapered it, blended in. So when you're getting ready to put the hoodie on, so here's the hoodie, and then you have the front and back pieces. So make sure the neckline, when you measure it, so we measure the neckline all the way around. Minus the seam allowance, mine is 25 inches, and then the hood is 25 inches on the neckline, but you have to add in a total of around 3 inches. So if the neckline here is 25, the hood neckline should be 28 inches, not counting the seam allowance. The total hood neckline is bigger than the total of the neckline of the front and back pieces. And when you do the hood, like for example, I said the total is 28 inches. So this is half of the hood. So this from here to here, from this point to this point, it's gonna be 14. So half of 28 inches. So just make sure the hood neckline is 3 inches, around 3 inches bigger than the neckline of the front and back piece. So now we're gonna add seam allowance. So it'll look like that, basically like that. So the next thing we're gonna do is the waistband and the cuff. So we have the waistband and the cuff. So you pretty much do the same thing for both. The waistband, just measure around, all the way around, find out what the dimensions and the length is. You do the same for the cuff. We have to find out the length all the way around. I'll do the cuff as an example. So we grab our sleeve pattern. This one looks like this, the sleeve. So basically we're gonna measure all the way around minus the seam allowance. Minus 12.5 inches. So first thing we're gonna do to make the pattern for the cuff and the waistband, but I'm doing the cuff as an example. We're gonna fold the paper in half and then fold the ribbing in half. Make sure you put the fold of the fabric on the fold on the paper. We're gonna do the same thing. Do dash marks all the way around. And now we're gonna connect the dots. Trace and flip the ribbing vertically on the fold of the cuff. Not the side you cut, not the seam you cut from the sleeve, but the fold. We'll flip on the fold, the side that's not cut. We'll flip it, and then we would trace it, but we don't have to trace it. We'll just fold the paper again. So now we'll just add seam allowance on the top and the side. So now we cut that out. Pay attention to the shape of the cuff. It's not just straight, it tapers towards your wrist. It's not a straight line. Be aware that's the shape. So that's how the shape of your cuff is. It's folded this way. And then see how there's the fold we did? That goes towards your wrist. And it'll like connect like that. So when I was saying it like tapers, it was in tapers. So now we're gonna make a pattern for the front pocket. First thing we're gonna do is grab some cardboard and put it behind the fabric, and then we'll cut a piece of paper and put that behind the fabric as well. So we'll put the cardboard will be on the very bottom. We normally trace the fabric to make a pattern, but this time instead of like doing the dash marks, we're gonna just use pins, and we're just gonna make little holes around the pocket, so we don't have to cut it out. So we don't have to actually cut the pocket out. We can just make little holes and go all the way around the pocket. So it'll look like something like this. Now we're gonna connect the dots. So we'll just trace half. So it should look like something like that. So it'll look like something like that shape. We'll trace half, and then what we'll do is we'll fold it and make sure like the point, like the bottom point and the points, the main points line up. We'll fold the paper there where the points match, like for example like the bottom points of the pocket. So make sure these bottom points match up when we fold it. So now we'll just add seam allowance, a half an inch, not a fourth. We'll add half all the way around. So then you unfold it, you have your pocket. So it'll look like this on your front piece. And you So now you have all your patterns ready. So you have your front, the back, the hood, the sleeve. And you have the pocket. And then you have the cuff that we made earlier. When you're making the cuff and the waistband, you make it the same way, but it's just the shape that makes a difference. So with the cuff, it tapers. It's not straight. It tapers towards your wrist, and this is the shape of the cuff. And then the waistband, it's pretty much straight. It doesn't taper on both sides. It's straight. And when you open it up, it's just straight. This isn't the actual waistband. I was just doing an example of how it would look like. But you would take your own measurements from the height and the width from your actual sample piece. I was looking for a fabric for the summertime. I wanted something lightweight. I needed something, or if I went to a barbecue or a summer party, where I could just throw on some shorts, some black shorts, some Chuck Taylors, and some Chucks. Hoodies are normally like a fleece fabric, so it's kind of heavyweight, thick. What kind of fabric could I use that would be lightweight and breathable for the summer? I've been to the fabric store like a million times, and I kind of know what's in the store. Like I know each section and what kind of fabric, if it's wool, if it's twill, cotton. One day I was thinking, like, I saw a lace fabric and I was thinking that's perfect because it was lightweight and it was breathable, it's thin. It had perforations so to let air come through. But then as I would go into the store and look for lace, I kind of just saw flower prints and things I wasn't interested in. So then I just started Googling online, and then I saw that there was like Paisley. I saw a lace Paisley pattern. I saw, I think, from Fashion Fabric Clubs or Mood Fabrics. But then I found like or maybe I found this on Etsy. So I was thinking like this is like perfect because it's like, and I don't think that I've seen a hoodie, pullover hoodie made with lace that was a Paisley pattern. It's kind of close to like a bandana print, and I feel like a bandana print, Paisley print just hits to me. So I felt like it would be like the perfect fabric for summertime. So the next thing we're going to do is cut the fabric. When you prepare the pattern to be cut, you have to make sure the fabric is folded in half and just flat. But since I'm making a miniature model, I don't need all this fabric, so I'm just gonna position it like this. So now you have to lay your patterns on the fabric. I like to start with the front piece. You have to make sure it's folded. Place the fold of the pattern on the fold of the fabric. Same as the back piece. You fold it and then place it on the fold of the fabric. You can put weights. It's faster to cut everything out. Some people chalk it and trace it around. Some people pin it. Like I'm gonna pin it because it's a miniature model. And then you have the sleeve. So it'll be open. Fit it in there like that. Fabrics normally have a grain, like it's going this way or this way, or you can cut on the bias, so it's like a straight grain this way, and then cross grain, and then on the bias, cutting on the bias. Most of the time, like when you cut straight on the grain, like the front pieces will go straight on the grain this way. Same with the back, and then the sleeve goes this way. The hood goes here, or you can do it cross to fit to kind of maximize the fabric, so you don't have any so you're not wasting any fabric. And then you have the pocket. You can just like put it here. Oh, forgot. And then when you're cutting to have a more precise cut, you can put paper underneath, like your construction paper or the pattern paper I told you can get from Home Depot. It helps cut the fabric precisely, and it'll be like a perfect cut. Like it won't like shift or move. Oh, and the fabric I'm using right now is muslin. It's like people use it normally to make samples and test things before they make it on the actual fabric. So here's the front piece, front part of the hoodie. Here's the back piece. So now we got everything cut out. It should look like this. The back piece, front piece, the sleeves. Pocket, and then the hood. For the hood, you're supposed to cut 4. I only have 2 because I forgot. We can start sewing the hoodie together. We still have to cut the ribbing, but we can just do that in the end. If you do have a overlock machine, a serger like this machine, the sleeve, the front, the back, the hood, and we'll just use the serger to finish the edges of the fabric. So it'll be finished like that. And it basically prevents the fabric from unraveling and fraying. So the next thing we need to do is place the pocket. Sew the pocket onto the front piece. So remember, we have a seam allowance of 1/2. So we're gonna press this 1/2 inches like that, and then we're gonna iron it all the way around. So do this, fold this 1/2 inch. I normally place a fabric on top of the fabric, just in case overheat and like melt the fabric or damage the fabric. It helps to spray water on it too. So it should look like this. Now we can place it on the fabric. After we press the fabric, we press all the way around, and then don't press the bottom. I said earlier press the bottom, but don't press the bottom. So now we will place it on the front piece. So we'll match the bottom of the pocket with the bottom of the front piece, like that. And then you can pin it in place. I don't like to pin the pockets, I like to glue because it just holds in place better. Like sometimes the pins shift around and move. I use this glue, this 3-in-1 beacon glue. Make sure the pocket's centered. You can also make sure it's centered by folding this pocket and then cutting at the center of it, like a little snip. There, if you can see, I cut a little. I snipped the fabric a little bit. And do the same thing for the front piece. Just cut a little, cut into it a little bit in the center. So now you can match the center. So the next thing we can do, we can top stitch the pocket into the front piece so it holds in place. When I edge stitch, I like to make sure the stitch length's around 4, and then when you stitch normally, you stitch around 3. So this is like an example of stitch length. Like this one's like a 4, so it's like longer stitches, and this one has smaller stitches. The length of each stitch is short. You do 4 for like top stitching, and then 3 for like stitching the garment together. So the next thing you'll do is you'll sew 1/16 of an inch edge stitch around. You place the needle down 1/16 of an inch and edge stitch all the way around. So around where I marked the pencil. I don't know if you can see that, 1/16 from the edge. That's where you place the needle. So we're sewing the sides, the top, and then the side. When you start a new stitch, don't forget a back tack, so it'll hold the fabric in place and it doesn't unravel. There's a button on the machine where you can back tack, so basically go back and forth and lock the stitch in place. So it should look something like that. The next thing we're gonna do is sew the shoulders. So the next thing we're gonna do is sew the shoulders in place. You're gonna put the back piece front facing, so like the front of, this is the front of the hoodie, and there's the front and then there's the back, the wrong side and the right side. So we're gonna put the right side, this is the right side with the pocket, the outside, and then we're gonna place the right sides facing each other. So now we'll sew the shoulders here, across there, and across here. And then we're gonna switch the stitch length from 4 to 3. So 1/4 from the edge of the fabric. That's where you place the needle down. So it should look something like that. The shoulders. So now you can flip it inside out and see how the seams are clean on the shoulder. And then there's the front with the hoodie, with the pocket. So this part is hidden. So we'll turn it back around and have the fronts facing, or right sides facing. Now we're gonna sew the sides together. Both sides here, 1/4 of an inch, and then 1/4 of an inch down here. So now we got the sides sewn, so it should look like something like that. So now you can flip it inside out. And you'll see everything is hidden. And here's your front pocket, shoulders. So the next thing we need to do is press the seams out. Just iron everything out so it's nice and flat. So now all the seams are pressed. Now the next thing we're gonna do is sew the sleeves. So you're gonna fold the sleeve and make sure right side's facing and fold it in half. We're gonna sew along the edge 1/4 of an inch. Do the same thing with the other side. Make sure that you fold it in half. Right sides are facing each other. Now you can flip it inside out. We have that front piece. So it's gonna look like that. Just iron everything out so it's nice and flat. We match the points, match this seam here, that, and then we'll cut up here as to mark the center, and then we're gonna match it with the shoulder seam there. Just iron everything out so it's nice and flat. So now we're gonna construct the hood. So you have 4 pieces of the hoodie. Basically you do the same thing for each hood. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna sew. So this is the bottom, the neckline of the hoodie. We're gonna sew 1/4 of an inch from here all the way to here and stop here. So we'll do that for both sides. Put the needle around here, 1/4 of an inch from the edge. Oh, and make sure right sides are facing, the outsides are facing each other. So the right sides are facing each other. So basically it looks like that. And then you can flip it, turn it inside out, so you can see the hood shape. So then you would put it like that. Now we do the same procedure with the second hoodie that we did with the first hoodie. So after we sew after we have 2 hoods, now we're gonna pin and match the hoodie center seams together. The top of the hoodie center seams together. You can either use a pin or glue it together. I normally glue it together. So we're gonna sew the hoodie, the front of the hoodie, all the way around with a 1/4 seam allowance from the edge. So just keep in mind not to sew the neckline, or just the front of the hoodie. So now we'll just flip the hoodie right side out. So it should look something like this. So after we press the hoodie, now we're gonna just top stitch, edge stitch the front, 1/16 from the edge, so around there. We'll just go all the way around, or start from here all the way around just the front. After you edge stitch, it should look something like this. So there's the hoodie, the side of the hoodie. So we edge stitch all the way around the length, all the way around the neckline. So we know the neckline, mine measures to be 25 inches. So now we have the neckline of the hood. Remember I told you it should be 28 inches, like 3 inches bigger than the neckline, because now we're gonna fold the hoodie. So we fold it over. We fold the hoodie over like this. And now we can pin it. So now when you fold it over like that, it should fit the neckline. So now it was 28 total, but since we overlapped it, now it should fit 25 inches here and 25 inches here. So now it can fit. Now we sew it inside. And then you have to match the seams. So if you want to know where the center point is, you can cut a notch or a slit in the front and the back, the front and the back piece of the neckline. So like you'll just fold it in half. Fold like the front piece in half. So like here if you have the front piece. So you can fold it in half. Cut a notch in the center. Like that. It's kind of the same as the back piece. So here's the center. Cut a notch. And the back of the hood, the seam matches up with the center. So you match the centers up. So now I could match it here. So it looks like this when it's done. So now you can just pretty much iron it, press it down, and then the last thing we'll do is the wristband and the waistband. It's pretty much the same procedure. We'll do the same thing, but I'll just show how to construct the wristband. It's the same as putting the waistband together. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is the waistband. So the waistband, like I said earlier, it's gonna be the same as making the wristband. The only difference is the shape. This is the waistband shape. Opened up, it's just straight. Whereas in the cuff, it has like this shape. It's not straight, it's kind of goes in and then goes back out. But it's the same way you construct it. So this waistband, it basically looks like this. You fold it, and it kind of goes around. You attach it here, and it kind of goes around the waist. So when we do the waistband, we're gonna use the ribbing. And then if you see from where my finger is from here to here, this is it's kind of where it normally sits. Like if you're using a non-stretch ribbing, you would just keep the ribbing the same length as the body of the waistband. But since it's ribbing, it stretches, so stretch it and kind of just pull, or it helps to fold it too. So fold it and kind of just like pull So this is the original state there. So then we can pull, but don't pull too much, because if you pull too much, when it retracts back, it'll get really tight. So you just want to just pull, kind of just keep it as natural. Just pull like slightly. It stretches to this point. So then you can chalk it. So the difference is kind of like maybe an inch, like 1.5 inches from here to here. It's like 1.5 inches. So now you can open it up with your new point there. You can just place the pattern on top and just trace. So notice it's shorter than the original pattern. So now you can just cut it out. Also keep in mind, like every ribbing's different, so you would have to do that, test it with each kind of ribbing you do. Like it might have been the difference, like with this one was 1.5 inches, maybe a different ribbing would be 2 inches or 3 inches. Like it just depends with the stretch of each rib. So you would just test. After you have it cut out, it looks something like this. So now you can unfold it and then fold it this way, and you can see it'll be put together like that. You can just stretch it to fit now. I don't know, it's just kind of hard to explain, but hope it was clear enough. So now when you sew it, just like the waist, it's just like the wristband, you're gonna do the same thing. So you fold it in half, and then you're gonna sew it there. So with this cup, you would do the same thing. You would fold it in half, and then sew it here to close the cuff. So it closed here. So if you have an overlock machine like this, you can just go ahead and you can close the waistband here. You can close the waistband with this overlock machine, but if you don't, you can just use the sewing machine and close the seam. If you have an overlock machine, like I said earlier, it'll look something like that. Just in case you forgot, like the inside of how your t-shirts are finished, and it prevents the fabric from fraying. Make sure the right sides are facing the outer shell, not the wrong sides. Make sure the right sides are facing. And we'll sew it 1/4 of an inch from the edge. So you're gonna flip it over, turn it right side out, and then you'll fold it. So it'll look like something like this. So now, you see, it's like that. So now if it just stretches in, it'll fit into the waist of the body. So you can match the seam that's already here that we just sewed. So we match it with this side seam here. We match it with this side seam here. So you match this side. And then to make sure it's even, you can cut a notch or a slit just on the other side. Cut a notch on this side to mark this side of the hoodie to match it. You can just mark it with chalk if you want. So we know it's like around here. Now we can just cut a notch, and then we can just match it onto this. You just pin the seams. And to make it easier, since there's like 2 layers, you can sew it. You can sew all the way around, so it's easier. So it's just one piece, so it doesn't like open up like this. So I'll just top stitch, edge stitch all the way around, so it won't be 2 separate fabrics. 1/16 from the edge. So now it's like one piece. You can't separate it like earlier. So it'll be like easier to sew now. So now you can just match notches and seams together. You can just pin it. And then now you'll flip it over, like kind of like that. So now it just stretches in. So when you sew, make sure the ribbing is on the bottom. So when you put it into the machine, make sure the ribbing's on the bottom. And then you'll kind of ease the ribbing into the waistband. Or you can just keep pinning every, I don't know, inch. So now we're pretty much done. So like something like this. So you'll pretty much do the same thing with the sleeves. So now you're pretty much done.
His name.
George Floyd! George Floyd! George Floyd! George Floyd!
Reason why buildings are burning is because this city, this state would prefer preserving that white nationalism and that white supremacist mindset over arresting, charging, and helping to convict 4 officers who killed a black man. That is the reality of what we're dealing with. This is not just a few cops doing things across the country. This is not a good cop versus bad cop situation. This is Ahmaud Arbery being shot down by white men on the streets of Georgia. Breonna Taylor being killed in her home. This is in New York City, where we were until freedom. We were just in New York fighting the police officers who, in the name of social distancing, were damn near killing black young people on our streets. This is a coordinated activity happening across this nation. And so we are in a state of emergency. Black people are dying in a state of emergency. We cannot look at this as an isolated incident. The reason why buildings are burning are not just for our brother George Floyd. They're burning down because people here in Minnesota are saying to people in New York, to people in California, to people in Memphis, to people all across this nation, enough is enough. And we are not responsible for the mental illness that has been inflicted upon our people by the American government, institutions, and those people who are in positions of power. I don't give a damn if they burn down Target. Because Target should be on the streets with us, calling for the justice that our people deserve.
Talk about it, Tamika.
Where was AutoZone at the time when Philando Castile was shot in a car, which is what they actually represent? Where were they? So if you are not coming to the people's defense, then don't challenge us when young people and other people who are frustrated and instigated by the people you pay. You are paying instigators to be among our people out there throwing rocks, breaking windows, and burning down buildings. And so young people are responding to that. They are enraged, and there's an easy way to stop it. Arrest the cops. Charge the cops. Charge all the cops. Not just some of them, not just here in Minneapolis. Charge them in every city across America where our people are being murdered. Charge them everywhere. That's the bottom line. Charge the cops. Do your job. Do what you say this country is supposed to be about, the land of the free for all. It has not been free for black people, and we are tired. Don't talk to us about looting. Y'all are the looters. America has looted black people. America looted the Native Americans when they first came here. So looting is what you do. We learned it from you. We learned violence from you. We learned violence from you. The violence was what we learned from you. So if you want us to do better, then damn it, you do better.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
Can I
me.
take a picture of calling the cops?
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I'm in the Ramble, and there is a man, African-American, who has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African-American man, I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. And my... I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the Ramble. Please send the cops immediately.
Please don't come close to me.
I'm not calm him down!
Don't shoot! Don't fucking shoot! Don't fucking shoot!
Please. I can't breathe off
Check for a pulse.
Bro, are you...
They fucking kill him, bro?
Bro,
They
bro,
just kill him
what
or
is you,
something.
1080?